No, no, no. I am disappointed, as I'm sure you are as well watching this video. The Democrats, did they fold? Or was this the solution all along? If you guys don't know, the government shutdown seems like it's about to come to a close. So in this video, I'm going to go over everything you need to know, as well as the 8 Democrats that decided to capitulate. Let's talk about it. This seems to be the first step of the ending of the historic government shutdown. The other historic government shutdown, what do you know? It happened under Trump as well. Now, you may be happy for it, understandably so, especially if you're a government worker. But if you really care about the battle between the Democrats and Republicans, this has huge ramifications. First things first, let's talk about what was agreed upon from the Democrats and the MAGA administration. Apparently, without anything into law or into legislation, there was an agreement made that the people who got fired were all rehired and got back pay. There's also a potential agreement of protection for these people not to get fired leading up until January 30th, the end date of the continuing resolution. Also, apparently, there's an agreed upon motion that around December, when the ACA/Obamacare tax credits officially ends, that there will be a Senate vote to extend them. So those are the alleged agreed upon things that happen behind closed doors between these 8 Democrats and the Republicans. And I do think Hakeem Jeffries said something very potent when it comes down to the situation, where he was basically like, okay, you had an agreed upon handshake deal, but the reason why we're doing this is so we have this in legislation right now. What was the point? That's the question everybody's asking. With that said, if this all goes the way everybody's expecting, the expectation is that it will fund the Department of Agriculture and the FDA, the Department of Veteran Affairs and Military Construction Projects, and the operations of Congress for all current fiscal year. All the other agencies that I didn't refer to will be funded through January 30th, according to the text of a continuing resolution released Sunday. So some things get funded again, and we are definitely looking at very precarious things that are happening right now. That is concerning. Not only the federal workers who are not getting paid, but also the whole situation regarding flights. I mean, people might not be able to go to Thanksgiving because their flight got canceled due to the government shutdown. And of course, the big thing that's going on is the whole war with SNAP benefits, with the court saying Donald Trump pay the SNAP benefits, people are starving, and this motherfucker basically saying, nah, I'm good, I might give you partial amount of that money. Officially, he said that he was going to give the full amount. Then he was like, you know what, I don't give a two rat shits about the American people, so I'm going back on my word, is the Donald Trump motto. Never holding 10 toes on the promises he made to help the American people. So a couple of agencies get funded again. We got an agreement that we will revisit the vote in December, and also federal workers get some type of protections. Golf clap. That's all I feel. A lot of the people on the more left and the progressives of the Democrats, and just Democrats in general, because Hakeem Jeffries, Elizabeth Warren, even Chuck Schumer, enemy number one when it comes to the Democrats, are all like, we voted no. This is not what we wanted. So you might be asking yourself, okay, what is going on? Who did the business? Who capitulated? Who bent down, bent over, and said, spank me, Daddy?
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Well, these are the 8 individuals. These are the 8 Democrats. Now, just because I'm showing you the picture of them, this is not doxing, and this is not going out, hey, let's be violent. That is not what we're doing, and I know I have to preface that to start off with. But it does say that if you live in this state, if you live in the district, you definitely should be calling up your senator and say, you suck! And I'm okay with that completely. However, they have made arguments on why they did what they did. And honestly, some of them are very reasonable, but it doesn't look at the bigger picture. But I don't want to sway you before I tell you the information. So let's look at all of their reasoning and you come to your own conclusion. Shout out Political. We're just going to use their description of everything that is taking place right now. It just makes my life a lot easier. The first individual is the Senator of Nevada, Catherine Cortez Masto. Cortez Masto has voted 15 times to end the federal government shutdown, even before Democrats had extracted the promise of a vote on the healthcare tax credits. She repeatedly stated that she did not want to inflict sweeping pain on some Americans in order to extract a solution to the impending healthcare crisis of expiring tax credits. She described lines like "I haven't seen since the pandemic" for food banks in Nevada to reporters during the vote Sunday night, and said that the opening the government was key to stopping the pain. So she was not on board with the government shutdown from the beginning. That seems like her very foundational principle. But again, it's a Democrat that doesn't really care about the larger picture of what is going on in America. She doesn't give two shits that Donald Trump's MAGA administration is borderline fascist. She cares about her own constituents, and she's very much looking at everything in a narrow lens. So for me, this type of reasoning, even though I understand the idea of trying to help the people who are dealing with SNAP benefits, even though this issue wasn't as prevalent the other times you voted no, but still, I understand the humanistic side. But is this really the reason? I don't know. I'm skeptical. Next, we got Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois. Durbin is the Democratic whip and the only member of party leadership who voted with Republicans to advance the deal to end the shutdown. Now, you might be asking, are you talking about like a whipping boy or like some guy who's whipped from his girl? No, that's not the whip we're talking about. And honestly, this is a weird terminology for such an important position. This is probably one of the most important positions in the House, and this is the person that is basically the leader of the party and is trying to orchestrate everything to help vote with what the party's agenda is. So this guy in a leadership position decided, I'm going to help the Republicans instead. I know, crazy. His likely successor as whip, Senator Brian Schultz, a Democrat from Hawaii. Shout out Hawaii. If you didn't know, I'm from Hawaii myself. I just wanted to brag that I used to be able to live in a state where I didn't have to look outside and I see snow. I'm tired of the cold, boy. I'm tired of it. But that said, let's continue. He voted against advancing the deal after sticking with Schumer and Durbin in March. This bill is not perfect, but it takes important steps to reduce their shutdown's hurt, Durbin said in a statement. Now that Democrats secured these wins, it's time for Leader Thune to keep his promise to schedule a vote on the ACA tax credits in December. He's retiring next year after 3 decades in office. So your old ass decided, hey man, I'm leaving, so I don't give a fuck, is what it sounds like to me. What did he give you, a private jet behind the closed doors? This is bullshit. And I'm not trying to hear the idea of, oh, we got some wins due to the special elections, so now let's completely bend over. What the? If you wanted to help extend the tax credits, then we should have got pen to paper. Not some deal in December when we know MAGA Republicans don't have enough morals to actually hold up their end of the deal. Even if a vote happens in December in the first place, who's going to say that they're going to vote on our side? This is some bullshit. I didn't like that reasoning either. Next, we got the infamous Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania. Fetterman has been a consistent vote to end the shutdown since it began, voting more than a dozen times with Republicans to move forward with reopening the government. He's not his party for sparking the shutdown and blamed them for government workers missing paychecks and low-income families losing federal food aid. John Fetterman is basically a secret agent of the MAGA party at this point. He calls himself a Democrat, but does he really practice what he preaches? I don't know how you could see what Donald Trump and MAGA is doing and act like that we're living in fair playing grounds. We aren't. And this is not something that the Democrats wanted to do. It's something they had to do. And all those people you claim to care about, well, they're going to suffer because the big, beautiful bill is going to make it very hard on a lot of people. Congratulations, Fetterman. You got what you wanted. Next, we got Senator Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire. Hassan, who was one of the Democrats who negotiated the vote on the Affordable Care Act tax credits deal, a former New Hampshire governor, she's up for re-election in 2028. This is a quote. I've heard from Granite Staters who can't afford a doubling of their health insurance costs. I've also heard from families about the deep pain that the government shutdown has caused. Hassan told reporters Sunday, highlighting the dueling pressures Democrats were under to cut a deal. Congratulations, you cut a deal, but those people you talked about regarding health care, well, they're going to suffer still. So are you doing anything to help that? Of course not. You care about you. in your reelection. I'm so tired of the individuals who claim that they are here for the people in the country and just are here for their own selfish desires. That is both politicians and billionaires that are really toxifying the country. So sometimes I can really relate to the idea of some MAGA supporters who really hated how things were and they were not moving in a direction that is really helping the people. I get that. They were just lied and manipulated too, thinking that Donald Trump, a corrupt billionaire, is going to care about their needs. And now we got this person, Maggie Hassan, who, does she care about the people or does she care about re-election? I don't know. I don't know her that well, but you tell me. Then we got Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. Kaine represents about 150,000 federal workers affected by the shutdown and backed a deal that includes a key provision for his state: reinstatement of federal workers impacted by mass reduction in force firings during the shutdown. This is a quote. This legislation will protect federal workers from baseless firings, reinstate those who have been wrongfully terminated during the shutdown, and ensure federal workers receive back pay, he said in a statement. Kaine admitted Sunday night that he was a latecomer to the group, saying, "I joined it 48 hours ago, not for lack of interest." Jesus Christ. I can't believe when Virginia had such a huge victory with the special elections due to the victory of Abigail, how she dominated her compatriots. And one of the things that was used in helping people understand how terrible we are in the situation we are right now is looking at the Trump administration and how gleefully they're firing people. And I get it. You're responsible for these amount of workers. You want to get their jobs back. But again, you're not looking at the bigger picture and what is taking place. You're just looking at the people that you're trying to serve right now. This is the difference between the Democrats and Republicans, even though I understand and helping the people you serve. Trust me, I do. But again, similar to what I said about Fetterman, we're not working in even playing fields. All the Republicans, for the most part, barring some exceptions, as we're seeing some people like Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene speak up a little bit, all the Republicans don't give two shits about their base. They just want to be loyal to Trump. And because of that, they will always follow what Trump wants. I guess the only exception to that rule is the idea that Republicans will not capitulate about getting rid of the filibuster. So, Tim Kaine, congratulations. But now, the whole reason why we're doing this in the first place, which was centered around the idea of doing something about the healthcare tax credits, well, that is up in the air. So we'll see how everything plays out. Was this a victory, or did you just get something in your pocket and you said, "Fuck you guys, I'm out of here"? Next, we got Senator Angus King of Maine. King, an independent who caucuses with Democrats, was a key negotiator on the deal struck to guarantee a vote on Affordable Care Act tax credits once the government is open. He hosted multiple meetings in his Capitol hideaway in recent weeks as the compromise came together. A former governor of Maine, King pointed to the pain the shutdown is causing with federal aid programs halted. We're closer to the possibility of work on the ACA tax credits for the people of this country than we were yesterday, than we were a week ago, 2 weeks ago, or a month ago, he said Sunday. His basic premise is that they're not going to change their mind, so we might as well give in now and get something in return. This is kind of how I felt in regards to what happened in Ohio, where people capitulated to the gerrymandering and took a loss, don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't as big of a loss as it would if they did fight back, because they were scared they weren't going to get the votes regarding a referendum. I hear it. I hear weighing the cost risk analysis. But again, one of the biggest things that I heard that I 100% agree with that was said by Gavin Newsom is the fact that Democrats aren't trying hard enough because right now people think they look weak. This is what he said.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, at the core of the problem with the Democratic Party, I submit, this is my humble, we can get into it's inflation, it's interest rates, it's incumbency, it's the view with Kamala, it might be Israel, it's Afghanistan, whatever. No, weakness.
Period.
Weakness. Trump is weakness masquerading as strength.
Mm-hmm.
And he made a great point. This, King, is weakness. You sound like a bitch. You sound weak. You sound like you don't want to fight. And right now, when it comes down to the American people fighting against this fascist, terrible government, we, as I'm not even a Democrat, but I'm counting us as we. Everybody fighting against Trump is we right now. We need to fight. and your bitch ass didn't want to. That's all that sounds like to me. Next, we got Senator Jackie Rosen of Nevada. Rosen joined her fellow Nevadan, Cortez Masto, to vote to advance the deal, representing a state where 95,000 Nevadans utilized the ACA tax credits. Like King, she was just reelected in 2024. This is a quote. Trump and his Republican cronies on Capitol Hill do not give a damn about hurting working people, and their conduct over the last month has been nothing short of appalling, Rosen said in a statement. She called the ACA tax credit vote the concession we've been able to extract. Wow, you got to vote. Now, will they accept the vote? Will they go through it? Will they actually pass it? Like, how do you say this, that he is a terrible person? These people do not care about working people, and expect them to agree to this. Now, if December hits and they do agree, then I do think at the very least they deserve some credit. Now, I would argue that the government shutdown was something that was built upon something bigger. It was built on something stronger. It was built on the momentum of Democrats truly showing that they're willing to fight it back against fascism. However, the core behind it, the biggest talking point, was the ACA tax credits. Don't get me wrong, I understand that. But this is not writing in stone. This is not embedded in legislation. It's a behind closed door handshake deal. So if you realize that these people are already evil and you're expecting them to agree, or at the very least you're expecting them to hold up their end of the deal by December, are we serious? I mean, King just said it recently. You think they're going to change their mind? Maybe they got something in writing. I have to see it to be convinced, because it seems like we did an historic government shutdown for no fucking reason. It seems like Donald Trump could have done whatever he wanted. He threatened SNAP benefits. He fired Democratic workers. He fired people who weren't loyal to them. He kept on ruining the government and just saying Democrats, Democrats, Democrats. And eventually you folded. That's what it looks like. You know what? Bernie Sanders, take it away.
And if this resolution is passed tonight, we are on a pathway to throw 15 million Americans off of Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. 15 million. Our job is to create universal health care, guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child, not throw 15 million people off the health care they have, low income and working class people. And my friends, know what you are voting on. Studies are out there that when
it's just these people do not realize what the people want. They don't. They're not hearing. They're not listening to what we are saying right now. We want to fight. That's what we want. All right. Last Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire. Shaheen was an original sponsor of the legislation that created the enhanced Obamacare tax credits that have been central to the shutdown dispute and played a key role in negotiating the vote to extend them. Like Durbin, she's retiring from the Senate next year and has spent most of her Senate career on the Appropriations Committee. She was also part of shaping the new stopgap spending bill that, in tandem with the ACA vote promise, could open the government. This is a quote. This was only a deal on the table. It was our best chance to reopen the government and immediately begin negotiations to extend the ACA tax credits. Weakness! That's all this is. Weakness. Do I understand the logic? Yes, I completely understand the logic. But when we work in a world where logic doesn't apply and compromise and bipartisanship doesn't matter, then logic needs to change. Priorities need to change. So here are my thoughts in regards to these Democrats deciding that they wanted to give up on the government shutdown in the battle against MAGA and Donald Trump. My first thought is very clear. I understand the logic that they presented, that they are trying to help the people, that they are not sure if they will ever give in, that MAGA is so evil that even by time December, they still won't do anything about the ACA tax credits, so we'll take what we can get. I understand that logic. I don't care. That is weakness. We all knew that this was going to be the case for a very long time. And it doesn't make sense to me, after a huge win at the special elections, after all the momentum, after it being very clear that the people want you to fight against what Donald Trump and MAGA are doing, that you decide to capitulate. I am not happy about this. I'm not happy at all. And we need to understand that MAGA is going to take this as a W. because they caused all the horrible things that has happened up until now. Yes, you got an agreement upon bringing workers back and getting them back pay. You know who fired him just because they weren't loyal to Trump or they might serve some type of democratic principle? Donald Trump. He fired him. Yes, we don't have flights going to Thanksgiving dinner to eat with your family. You know who canceled them? Donald Trump canceled them. He fired them. He's not funding them. You know who he is funding? He's funding ICE to get families and tear them apart right now. So Donald Trump and MAGA knew what they were doing. They didn't care about the people. They were going to ruin the government until you bent the knee, and that's exactly what you did. You didn't fight, you looked weak, and this is not what Democrats need right now. Now, I'm not saying we need a bunch of young progressives. We need strong Democrats. I don't care where on the spectrum, as long as you're not crazy and evil. I don't care where on the spectrum you are, but we need strength right now, not weakness. So that's all I got for today's video. If you enjoyed, like it up, subscribe, trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Y'all have a good one. Take care and peace.